Welcome back to I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to try. Today, I'm going to show you how I made this pendant. I made it for my daughter. She's into everything pink and purple and girly and flowers and hearts and beautiful. So, this is what I made for her. She absolutely loved it. It made her feel really special and princess-like. So, this is how I made it. You'll see here, these are the pressed flowers that I used. Specifically, I bought them for the resin making. They do not have any moisture in them. Resin does heat, and if you use fresh flowers or something like that, they will lose their color, they will fade, they will fog up the resin. This is also a pendant that I got online. So, first things first, again, this is the heart pendant, and I am going to go through all the different flowers that I have. I'm going to see what colors complement each other well. I know that I want it to be a lot of purple, but also I don't want it to just be different shades of purple because I want to make sure that there is some visual interest. The idea behind this is I want it to be layered. I don't want it to look flat. So I'm going to put in quite a bit of flowers, but I don't want it to be overwhelming. I want the piece to be full, but I don't want it to be cluttered. So I'm looking through all the different pieces. I'm breaking off smaller pieces so that they'll fit where I want them to. I'm adjusting just to see how they're going to get an idea of how they're going to look in the finished piece. I don't necessarily want them to be too complimentary. As you can see, I'll try that one in, but I don't necessarily like how the shape is. I feel like it's just too chunky looking. It's a little bit too chunky, I guess. I don't know what another word for that. So in case you ever are working with these tweezers are super helpful. They allow you to be a lot more precise and see what's going on. So even though I did like that color, you can see that I switched it over to something that was a little bit lighter. I do have that big piece in the front, so I didn't really want again another chunky looking piece. So I switched that out, and I'm happy the way that looks. This is the silicone resin mold that I have. This piece right here actually fits perfectly as a cabochon for the pendant that I have. So use UV resin when you're working with resin. Warning, warning, warning. Make sure you are using gloves, and you should also be wearing a respirator mask. Resin is not good for you. I did not. Do as I say, not as I do. So I'm going to I'll put a bead of resin inside there, and I'm going to just tilt it around. I do not want bits and pieces of the flowers to be like sticking out of the resin. So in my mind, this is going to stop that from happening, but resin is actually really runny, or this kind of resin is really runny. So by the time I actually put it in the mold, I don't know if it'll actually matter, but in my brain, it matters. So I did it. This is just a UV nail cure thing for like gel nails. I do gel nails sometimes on myself, but I'm not super into it, especially as you guys have seen with our garden and stuff. It's just messy. So I cured that one bead of resin just with just the resin because again I want it to be layered. I don't want the flower to be like on top of the resin, so you need to put a layer first. Remember when you are putting all these flowers in there that it's going to be reversed, so the flowers that you put first are going to be closest to you as you're looking at the pendant, and it will also be flipped back and forth, so you need to put everything in there upside down. I'm placing this exactly where I want it. I'm moving it around. I'm making sure that it's going to fit nicely within that first bead. And then I'm going to put some wet resin inside, some fresh resin on top of that hard cured piece so that I don't get any bubbles. Because if you put the resin behind the flower but not underneath the flower, if that makes sense, you're going to get a trapped bubble in there. So I'm going to just place that in there gently. I don't want to puncture that flower. I just want it to be firmly pressed into that wet bead of resin. And then I'm going to put another small layer of resin on top of that flower, because then that will be the backing that we can then place the next flowers on top of for the next layer. Going to again shush that around. That's not the technical term, but that's what I'm going to call it, around, to make sure that it is evenly coated. And I got up because I have a mini like hair dryer that heats up the resin just enough so that any bubbles pop. I don't do that for every layer, but I do feel that this first one was a little bit thick, so I wanted to make sure I got any bubbles out of there. I'm going to do a quick cure. Doesn't necessarily have to be fully cured, but it probably will be because of how small of a layer that was. And I'm going to put in the second layer. Again, look at both sides, see which side you like and which one you want front, and then put that face down in the resin. Putting another small bead because we are going to layer it. I'm going to zhuzh it around a little bit to make sure that it is even. And then I'm going to use that popsicle stick to just move them around and the final little tweak to put them, make sure they're exactly where I want them. Quick cure again. Doesn't take long because it is not a thick layer of resin. Then I grabbed that last little starburst piece and then I put it inside another layer of resin, face down again. And I really like this piece because I feel like it, one, brings the whole piece together. You'll be able to see all those little bits behind the other flowers in there. And it's also purple. It gives you that nice little purple backdrop that I think my daughter is going to love. Well, when I made this, I thought she was going to love it. I know now that she actually loves it. So really easy to pop out. That mold is perfect. It's made for this. So as you can see, it comes out nice and shiny and gorgeous. And you can see that layering effect that we have. If anybody has any ideas that could make this even better, let me know. I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying. That's the important part. So there you go. You can see it sits very nicely inside that pendant. So what I'm going to do is I need to secure it into the actual backing there. So I grabbed another bead of resin and I'm going to layer it inside. This is important because you need to make sure that so that it turns into a cohesive piece, that you don't have this, resin cabochon on top of the pendant. You want to make sure you fill the back, the little well, as much as you can without overflowing, because you do need to put the piece inside, but you kind of want it to meld together. So I'm just going to tip it around in there, make sure I got all the corners in there. Then I'm going to take the piece that we made and I'm going to lay it in there. Purposely, I want to lay it on an angle because I want to kind of push any air that is in it outside. So I'm giving it a place to go towards the top there. If you can see, I can put point first. This is some isopropyl alcohol that I use to wipe off any resin that may get on my fingers, though you should be wearing gloves. This is what the pendant looks after its final cure. And then we're going to move on to putting it on some actual jewelry. So all of this stuff, I think, coming up that I used to make it, make the actual necklace, I got from Michael's. There's a jewelry making section in Michael's. If you don't know Michael's, I don't know Michael's that well. I usually get everything online, but for some reason, I was in Michael's and I saw they had a whole jewelry making section. This is the chain that I use. It's just a thin gold colored chain. I've used it for making other projects or repairing my kids, play jewelry that they sometimes break because they're kids and that's what they do, which is fine. So I got this long bit of it so that I can make multiple pieces if I want. And I am just going to measure it out to what I think looks right. I'm sure there is a more technical way of doing this measuring and stuff, but I didn't do it. I was just like, that probably looks okay. So that's what I did. You'll see me just kind of adjusting it to see where I want it to be. And this is something that I would change and I will caution you against. So these are the jewelry making pliers, and they have a wire cutting section down at the bottom like normal pliers do. But here you'll see that I just rip it off because it didn't cut through with the pliers very well, like it didn't cut through the link. But by ripping it off, I actually warped the link and I wasn't able to put the O-ring or whatever it's called through it, and you'll see that in a second. Again, this is something that I got right next to where I got the chain in the jewelry making section at Michael's. I'm going to use a lobster claw clip to attach it together, and then I have these two like O-rings. I don't know what any of these things are called. This is what I'm calling them because that's what they look like to me. Sorry, I can't be more technical. So this part, you're gonna see me chop up a little bit because it was a nightmare. Again, they're small little O-rings, and I warped the very fine chain, so I wasn't able to get them through. No big deal. This is why we're doing this. This is why we're learning. This is why we're trying. So you grab two pieces of the O-ring and you twist them away from each other. You do not pull them away from each other, if that makes sense. It just makes them easier to reline up. And here you go. You see me struggling trying to get that in there. So we're going to just speed through this and then we're going to cut a bunch of it out because it's painful to watch. So as you can see, I finally got it in there, and then you need to add another O-ring to the other side, and then attach the lobster clip. Again, you'll see me do the twisting two pieces away from each other, as opposed to pulling them apart. And then this side was, for some reason, a lot easier to do. So I just quickly put that in there and attached it to the chain. And then I went and got the lobster claw clip end, attached that to it as well, and then we will have a finished necklace very shortly here. While we are waiting for me to finish, also, please let me know if there's anything that you would like me to try. I do have a couple of things that I do want to try and film and share with you guys. Also, I'm using a new mic, so if you guys have any tips or tricks about that, also let me know. Here is the final piece. I took it outside so you can see it in the natural light in the garden. I think it came out really well. And like I said earlier, my daughter loved it. So thank you for joining me again on another journey of I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to try. And we are just going to keep going ahead and trying our best. Thanks for joining me and have a good night. Bye, guys.